Welcome back to Sailing El Jaleo. This week we get a surprise thunderstorm before leaving Belhaven. From there we go on through a series of lakes, canals, and rivers, and we also cross Albemarle Sound in a bid to get to Great Bridge, Virginia. In Great Bridge we have to navigate a whole bunch of bridge and lock closures or restrictions as we make our way to Norfolk and finally on to Hampton, which is right on the edge of the Chesapeake Bay. I guess we might as well go ahead and get right into it, so grab a drink, climb aboard, and let's get going. As we were preparing to leave Belhaven, a surprise thunderstorm whipped up the night before, and it was a wonderful send-off. I love a good thunderstorm. As we left Belhaven, North Carolina, I didn't have any cameras rolling just because you guys have seen a lot of this stuff before. I've been here twice before, so if you've been watching my videos for a while now, you will have seen this. And I try and always bring you new stuff, not just repeat the same stuff over and over again. So this video is going to be pretty compressed all the way from Belhaven up to Hampton. And one thing that I saw that was A-B normal was this. I guess it's a boat. It's quite a large boat, and it's uncommon to see boats that size in the intracoastal waterway, so I took a video of it. And one thing that really shocked me was one day I was anchored right by Hellgate, and I actually saw a cruise liner come through the intracoastal waterway, and I'm like, what the... There's a cruise line called American Cruise Lines, and they actually cruise up and down the intracoastal waterway. It looks just like a Carnival cruise ship, but, you know, a mini version of it. And they're like 3 stories tall. They must have, you know, 50, 75 rooms on them or something. And they actually have cruises up and down the intracoastal waterway, which is pretty neat. I was not expecting that the first time I saw it. And they're wonderful. I passed 3 of them. They're very courteous in passing, and they smell like pancakes and sausage, no matter what time of day it is. So, hey, you can't go wrong with that. In these first couple days of traveling, we made really good time. The wind helped us. I could get the head sail up, and the first day we made it all the way from Belhaven up the Pungo River, through the Pungo River Canal, up the Alligator River, and then we anchored right at the Alligator River Swing Bridge, just north of it. So the next morning, it was projected to be calm, and we could get up and head across to Albemarle Sound, which is what we're doing right now. And the first day, I think we went 46 miles. The next day, we did a really good chunk again. We were somewhat limited the second day by the anchorage distance. In that area, there's not a ton of anchorages. So I decided to try for an anchorage that I'd never stayed at before. It was further than we normally would stop in the North River, but this other anchorage was about 10 miles up the road a little further, and we wanted to have an easy day getting to Great Bridge the next day, so we decided to try out somewhere different. Hey y'all, today is, I don't have any idea. I know it's not a weekend, sometime during the week, but we've been hauling butt the last few days. We actually covered 48 miles yesterday. We've done 33 so far today, and we've got another 3 miles till our anchorage. And then tomorrow we're only another 26 miles to Great Bridge, Virginia, which will be cool. Although they are having problems with the Great Bridge lock. They fried the electrics on it, so it's got limited operation. And I was going to try and go through Dismal Swamp, but between the shallow depths and the duckweed, and I need fuel, and I couldn't find fuel anywhere. If I had gone through the Dismal Swamp, I couldn't have gotten it until we got to Norfolk, and that would have been cutting it really close. I think we could have made it, but I don't like being that close on fuel. I like to have at least a 10 or 15 gallon cushion, so we decided to go through Great Bridge, and we'll just deal with the lock restrictions. Hopefully it's not too backed up there. But yeah, we're currently in Coinjock Bay, which I absolutely hate. I don't know why. I freaking hate this place. It's not like it's ugly or anything. It's just a big shallow bay, and you go on a couple of straight stretches through here in a narrow channel. I don't know why I hate it here. I just dislike it. Trying to think if I hate anywhere else. I do not like Cape Fear River. Don't like that. Those are about the only two places along the entire trip that I just don't really care for. But yeah, so we're actually gonna anchor right here in Coin Jock Bay. It's really shallow everywhere. It's only like 2 or 3 feet deep, but there's one pocket up ahead over here that's supposed to be 8 to 10 feet deep. I hope that's true. There are reviews as currently as 2022 that say it's still viable, so I'm hoping when we get there it is, because there are no other anchorages around here. Just beyond this, you pretty much have to make it all the way to Great Bridge, otherwise you're done. So yeah, we can't make it that far today, so I'm hoping this anchorage pans out. But anyway, I hope you all are well, and fingers are crossed on the anchorage. That night we got to our anchorage in Coin Jock Bay around 3:30 or 4 o'clock at night. It was a little rough for about an hour and a half, and then the winds died down as they were projected to do. The next morning we got up early and headed out for Great Bridge, and we did have to go through a series of swing bridges. The first one is the North Landing Bridge, and then about 4.3 nautical miles up the road is the Centreville Turnpike Bridge. And our cruising speed is normally around 3.7 knots, and these bridges open every half hour. So in order to make it so we didn't have to wait for almost a half an hour, I needed to drop the hammer and make it up there in an hour, and we actually did. I think we averaged about 4.3 knots the entire way, so we made it right as the Centreville Turnpike Bridge was opening. And as we went through the Centreville Turnpike Bridge, we went towards Great Bridge, and we ran into something I had never seen before. There is a railroad bridge, a bascule bridge, right outside of Great Bridge, and it was closed. There was a train coming through, which I'd never seen a train go across a railroad bridge before, so it's kind of neat. This final stretch coming into Great Bridge is always a little bit nerve-wracking because there are only so many places you can tie up. There are 2 free docks in Great Bridge, and they can hold about 10 boats total, and you can stay up to 48 hours. And with the restrictions on the Great Bridge lock for its opening schedule, I was worried that there were going to be boats backed up and there would be no place for me to tie up. And there's really not a good anchorage beyond Great Bridge until you get up to Norfolk, and that would be problematic because, as I learned when I got there, there are restrictions. They were doing maintenance on the Gilmerton Lift Bridge as well, so that's between the Great Bridge lock and Norfolk. So that was only opening twice a day at this point, and the whole thing got really tricky. And then the train bridge was closed, and I knew I had sailboats coming behind me, and by the time the train bridge had opened up, those sailboats had cleared the swing bridge that was right behind us. And I'm the slowest boat, so I was worried that I was going to miss out on a free dock. And I also had to get fuel, so I made the decision as I was coming into Great Bridge, going around that final corner. If all the free docks were taken, I would stop at Atlantic Yacht Basin and get fuel, and then figure it out. But if there was a spot open at the free dock, I would take the free dock and then worry about getting fuel later. And fortunately, it turned out that there was plenty of space. There was only 1 boat total between the 2 free docks, which was awesome. So I grabbed the free dock and I got calls on the radio from boats behind me. They were wondering if there was room, so apparently I'm not the only one that worries about getting a space. So it was all good. We all got a space, which was nice. Hey y'all, here we just got into Great Bridge and grabbed a free dock, and I went to clean off the anchor from this morning, and our pinless for our spray down wasn't working. And I came in here to check the fuse, and it was actually sparking. And there are these, oops, I just dropped that, probably where I shouldn't have dropped it. I'll have to find that. Oh, there it is. Butterfingers. Okay, so these fuse.
Yeah, the guy coming in, he didn't slow down, so he...
Okay, these fuse holders in here are riveted onto this board. I don't know if you can see that. But up here, this one, I took it apart because it was sparking, and these connectors where you would screw in, or where you'd put your wire to attach it to the fuse holder, on both ends were just corroded completely. So she was hanging on by a thread. So I'm glad we could actually use it this morning. So this is shot. And obviously I don't have a replacement board for this. I'll have to order one of those. But what I do have is a fuse holder here. So I can put a fuse in the fuse holder. And here is our line. For about 0.3 seconds I thought, well, maybe I can just connect the two wires. But you know what? I really don't want to lose the boat to a fire. So here's one of the wires. Here's the other back here. I'm just going to tape. This one is free. I can pull this out. This one I'm going to tape the end off of it so I don't connect it with anything that's live and do more damage. And then I'm going to pull it down and through. And once I get both of the wires out, I'm going to go ahead and connect that fuse holder in line, and that will do the same thing as this fuse holder up here. So I'm going to give that a shot right now. And this was just a temporary fix, knowing that I was going to restore it to its original state when I got back to Delaware. I didn't want to cut the ring connectors off the wires because I would need them in the future. So I took the braided wire from the fuse holder that I had, and I just wrapped it tightly around the ring holder on the wires and taped it up good so it wouldn't cause any issues. Okay, so I just put that temporary fuse holder in place, and let's see if it works or not. And we have water again. And after we arrived in Great Bridge, things got even trickier with the bridge and lock schedules. So you can stay at the free docks for up to 48 hours, which technically is one night, 2 days, 1 night. And the next day I learned about the Gilmerton lift bridge restrictions, which is just 10 miles up the road, and they were only opening twice a day. So the bridge lock is running on generator power, and it's opening every other hour, which is fine. And then the Gilmerton lift bridge was on restriction where it would only open at 7 in the morning, and I believe it was 5 at night. Maybe it was 7 and 7, something like that. And if I wouldn't have been able to make it between the Great Bridge Lock and the Gilmerton Lift Bridge to make that 7 o'clock opening. In order to do it, I would have to leave in the dark, which I didn't want to do. So I decided to take a chance and stay an extra night at the free dock and not get busted. So, and then, and the reason why was because the next day was when the restriction on the Gilmerton Lift Bridge was being removed, so it would open on demand. So I knew I could get through the next day. I knew it'd be really tricky to make it through that day. And then the day after that we actually did make it through, there was another railroad bridge that was going to be in the closed position for several days on end because they were doing construction on that as well, or repairs rather. So, and that was only opening twice a day. So the whole thing just became a real mess in that area. And there was a 1-day window where we could sneak through everything and make it up to Norfolk and then on to Hampton. But in order to do that, I had to stay at the free dock 1 night longer than I should. And I thought, well, you know, I've stayed on one side for one night, and then on the other side it says you can stay for up to 48 hours. So technically, does that mean I can stay 48 hours on one dock and then 48 hours on the other dock? It's not real clear. So I figured that would be the angle I would take if I was going to get yelled at about it. So, and I could explain the bridge situation. I'm sure they'd be understanding about it. So after one night at the free dock, I went over to Atlantic Yacht Basin. I filled up on fuel and water, and then I headed over to the other side of Great Bridge, and that was interesting too, because when I was going through the Great Bridge to tie up on the north side of it, I heard the bridge tender. Someone had mentioned that one of the sides of the bridge was opening slower than the other, and the bridge tender said, yeah, we've been having problems with one side of the bridge opening. So I'm like, oh great, another bridge is having issues. So we made it to the other side, we tied up for the night, left the next morning and had no problems. But the next morning, the Great Bridge actually was on restriction. So they were doing repairs on that one. So if I hadn't gone through the day before, there was actually a guy I was talking to. He was staying on the other side, and he was going to come through at 7 in the morning to go through the lock and then do the same thing that I was doing. But he got stuck on the other side of the Great Bridge. They weren't opening that until noon. So that really shot his plans, and I'm so glad we made it through when we could. It just, the whole thing was just kind of a big ball of mess right in that area. And finally, we made it through okay, but there was a little bit of juggling going on. Norfolk is a wonderful place to take a boat through, and this video is already running way too long, but you know, what is a video without a musical montage? So I'm going to throw in a quick montage of, I've got tons of footage, but I'll just show you a little bit, and I'll carry the footage out through the end credits or whatever, the end spiel, and we can wrap this one up. All right, hope y'all are well.
I got a voice in the back of my head. Tried fighting it off, but it just keeps on calling, calling. When I try to scream, my lungs collapse, imploding in the dark surrounding me. I
And that's all we have time for this week. Sorry, that was a little bit longer than I thought it would be. I would like to give a massive shout out to my Patreon crew. Without your guys' support, I absolutely would not make these videos. And my Patreon crew is Joan and Juddy Judnick, Val and Chris Alcorn, Denise and Eli Sackett, Sherry Erickson, Deb Shaw, and Matthew Spotten. I do also have one legacy patron member, Joan Linbo. Unfortunately, she has passed on, but she will live on forever in our hearts. We miss you and love you, Joan. If you would like to join our Patreon crew, there is a link in the description down below, and that'll give you access to our Patreon page where there's hundreds of videos and photos. And I like to do 2 or 3 live updates a week to let you know where I'm at and what's going on with me and the crew. And you would help support the channel, which would be awesome as well. If you do like our videos, please like, comment, and subscribe. That helps us out as well. That doesn't cost you anything, but, you know, it really, really helps the channel. Alrighty, I hope you all are well, and we'll see you next week.